All right, we're back with another Auburn Live show. As always, on Saturday morning, it's the one and only the Modcast. That means Cole Pinkston and Jeffrey Lee are joining me on the Auburn Live show. Welcome, fellas. Big day, big weekend.
Yes, sir. It's a big one this time. Not that it wasn't last week, but this one's for real.
Yeah. How you feeling, Jeffrey?
You know, I'm not. My expectations are low. My expectations for today's game are low. I'm excited about everything that's going on, but the game. I'm excited about the recruits visiting, the official visits, the unofficial visits, football, basketball. So I'm excited about what's going on outside of the game. The game to me is
Like I said, my expectations are low.
Yeah. I'm like barely. I'm probably like a notch above you. I mean, I think that there's a lot of fans that are overly optimistic. Not saying Auburn can't pull
A
it
lot
out,
more than
but
I thought. Yeah.
there's I think some misguided, coming off the LSU win. Look, LSU's not a top 15 program. They're gonna go like 7-5. I mean, so
At best.
right, like at best. I mean, so you know,
But on the other hand, Penn State's top 5.
yeah, and I'm curious to see the Penn State Iowa game. I just want to see Penn State again, because I want to see if they're for real. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I think there's a level of optimism that I'm not completely sure. But I say that, and I said Auburn would win last week, and I didn't even have really a good reason necessarily.
Yeah,
So,
right.
just like so maybe. Well, let's just start there, man. 15-point underdogs. I was looking it up. The last time they were that kind of underdog at home was the Iron Bowl in 15. They were 15-point underdogs, and they lost. That was a close game. It was 22-13, and then Derrick Henry had that touchdown at the very end, like in the last minute, and he had like 240 yards rushing. Auburn lost that game, and then 2012, Auburn Georgia, one of the worst Auburn teams ever, was only a 15-point underdog against an 8-1 Georgia team, and Georgia won that game 38-0. So it reminds me more of the 2015 Iron Bowl, because that Alabama won the national title, and Auburn went 6-6 that year. You know, they had some good players that went in the NFL. But do we think? I'll start with you, Jeffrey. Do you think this line is? Maybe I know where you're going with this. Do you think that line's fair? Do you think it's too high, too low? I mean, 15
Shit,
points.
man.
You think Auburn can keep it there?
I was expecting it to be much higher. I really was.
Me too.
I really was. When
bet.
I saw 15, or even I think it started at 14 some places, then it's up to 16 some places.
It bumped to 16 yesterday.
And I was going, damn, dude, like, I don't know that this Auburn offense can score a touchdown. I really don't. So I'm obviously expecting a very low scoring affair. I mean, are we talking 24-3 here? Something like that. 24-7, maybe a defensive touchdown. But I just don't see Auburn scoring 20 points.
What do you think, Cole?
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to score 20 points. It's going to be hard for them to score 7, like Jefferson.
Yeah, yes.
But, I mean, I saw some things last week that I thought could be beneficial in this game. I don't know if I like it, Jeffrey.
Hey, are we doing video?
We're trying. If people are going to see, people are going to see you.
Let me give them a brief explanation. We're trying to get this green screen. Hold on, let me get this stuff going. We're trying to get this stuff.
I'm gonna send Jeffrey a picture or something. I'm gonna frame that. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna frame that picture of you guys from the opening game, and you're gonna put that on the wall behind you.
I like it. I'm cool with that. That was a good picture.
What do you have, Cole? You got what is that? George Jones back there?
Cole's got records back there, like he's Renaissance man.
Got some Bob Marley, some Bee Gees, Eric Clapton. You know.
Hey, how about Ziggy Marley? Did y'all see that Ziggy Marley played at the Gouge Performing Arts Center the other night in Auburn?
Really?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Bob Marley's son.
Mm.
Yeah. I just saw that. I thought that was pretty neat. All right, so Auburn's not going to score. The consensus I'm hearing.
Auburn's offense.
I'm not going to go that far. I think they have a chance to score. I'm not saying they have a chance to win. I think they have a chance to score. They started working some of the new perimeter runs last week. I liked that. I don't know what we have to do against Georgia. So maybe Tank finally bounces back this week and has a bigger role, does better with the perimeter type runs. He's got a little bit extra motivation in this one too. So
what's going on with him, man? What do y'all see? Like people keep asking me, is he healthy? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, he looks. You can see enough of him that he's healthy. They just a couple of things. They haven't had a lot of room to run. I mean, to his defense.
Sure.
And it just looks like something's off. I mean, he has this great game against Penn State, and then I don't know if it's stuck in the box. I don't know if he's not getting as many carries as he'd like. I don't know if he's pressing. I don't know if he's hitting the hole too fast and not being patient. He's trying to bounce things outside. Like, I don't know. Just looks like he's pressing a little bit. He's healthy to me, but Cole, I don't know what you see, but I mean, Jarquez still finds some room there. Now they've got some plays for Jarquez that that little Tank's probably sitting on the sideline going, "Hey, can I get that toss sweep play with the motion?"
Right.
That's a great play. That works every time. But how do you get Tank back on track?
Well, I've studied it a good bit, and I don't think he's hurt. I mean, when he bounces it, he looks like he's pretty much full speed to me. And then Brian Harsin said that he was fine, so that kind of lines up there. But well, first of all, what do you run the zone runs for anyway? If you are really confident in your offensive line, and you'll see Georgia's very confident in theirs, they're going to line up and run power football. They run the power G where they pull the guard and have a lead blocker there because it's easier for the running back. You have a designated hole to hit on those kind of plays, right? So for the zone run game to work, your running backs have to be savvy. They have to find the lanes. They have to find the creases, and Hunter's been better at that so far. But the reason that you do all the zone run stuff is to help your offensive line when they can't just move people off the ball. It's more finesse, right? It's lateral movement instead of forward movement, vertical movement. So it really requires the running backs to have to be close to perfect, and Tank hadn't been perfect. So that's why he's not having the success he was having last year.
But doesn't it require patience too?
Yeah, it requires patience. I mean, sometimes
I just don't think he's got that right now.
No, he's not really showing that. I mean, it takes a minute for some of those creases to come open sometimes. There were a couple times in the LSU game when the offensive line, the middle, between whoever the guards were, because they were rotating guards the whole time, but Brahms and the guards were getting a little bit of movement, and he won't get behind it. Sometimes you get behind it, you get 3 or 4 yards, and that's a big gain, right? On first down, I mean, you stay ahead of the chains that way instead of bouncing it and getting no gain. So I think they probably are going to work on that this week. They probably told him, hey, you can't bounce it every time. It's not going to work. That's not how the zone blocking works. There's going to be somebody waiting for you out there every time. So get behind the movement and get what you can, and you might bust out of one eventually. So I think they've got to get that right with him. And Hunter, he hasn't had quite as many chances in the inside zone running game, so I'm not sure how perfect he is at that. Like you said, he's getting the tosses and the outside perimeter runs and stuff more. Maybe they mix that up and give that to Bigsby too. So that would help, I think.
All right, so how does Auburn score in this game? We like it's going to be hard. I've and just kind of thinking about it throughout the week. I think this is a game where you want Bo Nix to start one way or another, because I think that it's going to take him. It's going to take his improvisation against a great defense to probably make stuff happen that's not there when you have an offense like Auburn's. It's okay, but it's not great. Like we talk about Bo Nix from game to game, but you watch what he does against LSU and you're like, golly, okay. I mean, that was, he still was only 50% passing, but he just did some good things. He created stuff with his feet. And to me, that's Auburn's best chance, is Bo Nix making things happen that aren't there, that you can't plan for. So it's the same thing that gives Alabama's defense and had trouble over the years. Is a guy that's mobile that you just can't plan for, maybe a little up tempo at times. I remember that 2019 game when they went up tempo in the fourth quarter and kind of got Georgia where Georgia couldn't substitute and went on a couple of drives. It's going to take that. It's going to take just some kind of crazy plays and some good plays from Bo, I think, to create stuff out of nothing to get some drives going. Jeffrey, I know that's like it's like a scary proposition when we talk about Bo. It's like I feel like we talk about the blitz. You know, they say with the blitz, like the band's playing one way or another. That's Bo Nix at quarterback. It's just it's a dicey thing. But when you're playing a team that's better than you in Georgia, I'm actually okay with it now. If Bo goes out there and makes mistakes, whatever. I mean, that's what's going to take probably to beat a team like Georgia.
Well, I think what we learned last week was, and I knew this going in to LSU, was even after watching TJ Finley lead Auburn on that 98-yard drive to beat Georgia State, I'm going, you're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. You know, because in the long run, you know, it's like Geno Atkins when was it? Thursday night. I don't know if y'all watched the Seahawks game, the Rams. No. Russell Wilson dislocates his finger. Geno Atkins comes in, leads him down for a score, and then he throws an interception to lose the game. I mean, he a good backup, right?
Yeah.
Not great. Not a guy.
Geno Smith.
I'm sorry, Geno Atkins. Y'all remember Geno Atkins?
From Georgia.
Yeah, he almost came to Auburn.
Almost had him.
Yep, sure did.
I was like, Geno Atkins played quarterback. I'm confused. What's going on?
Left-handed. But yeah, that's kind of how I view TJ. And if you're starting a game over Bo Nix, then something's wrong with Bo. I loved what I saw from Bo Nix last week at LSU. He played absolutely, in my opinion, the game of his life, at least in college. I know what he'd done as a freshman. He'd had some good moments, but I thought from beginning to end, he won that football game. He did, in my opinion. What you're going to have today from Auburn all around is you're not going to be able to miss those open receivers. You're not going to be able to drop those passes. You're not going to be able to turn the football over. You're not going to be able to have multiple penalties. You're going to have to be very disciplined. You're going to have some luck. You're going to have the ball go your way. You're going to have Georgia turnovers. I'm not saying Auburn can't win. I'm saying it's going to have to be a perfect game, not only from Auburn and Bo Nix and the wide receivers and getting people lined up and doing everything right, but you're probably going to have some help from Georgia as well. When I say I have low expectations for this game, I think back to 1 year ago in Athens and how dominated Auburn was in the trenches and completely from beginning to end. Georgia just dominated. I think it's 27-6. Auburn kicked a couple of field goals, were absolutely atrocious on offense. And you really walked away from that game, or at least I did, saying, wow, at the talent gap.
Yeah.
The talent gap between those two programs, the recruiting had really reared its head. I mean, you could really see the difference in recruiting and the coaching as well. I think Auburn is better this year on offense. I believe they're going to be more difficult to prepare for. I think the first couple of drives, Auburn's, scripted drives with Mike Bobo will probably be beneficial. I think if Auburn doesn't get some points early, they may not get it. But my expectation for this game is I want to see Auburn's program. Last year, it was this, it was so different from Auburn and Georgia. I want to see Auburn close the gap in overall program and the way that this team is headed. So if they get beat 24-10 and they looked good doing it, they didn't look dominated from beginning to end. To me, that's a win. You know what I mean? Overall win. I think as far as recruits go too, if all these recruits that are going to be here today were at that game last year, they're walking away from that going, God dang, Auburn's the difference in programs is it's not even a contest. You want recruits, all those recruits walking away from that 24-10 game going, damn, couple of breaks here and there. Auburn was right there in it with them, but they might be a few players away from being able to compete with that, a team like Georgia. So those are my kind of expectations. I'm not saying that, those are what I meant when I said low expectations. I want to see Auburn fight, be competitive, and not dominated like they were a year ago.
Yeah, and to your point, somebody asked me on the asked and answered, and I basically said what you said. They said, what would be success for Auburn? Like how do we know if Auburn's going to get more successful against Georgia, specifically this series? Like, what is a gauge of success if Auburn doesn't win? Obviously, if they win, but right. I said the same thing. I said the trenches. They've gotten killed in the trenches in this series over the last 10 years. That's where. If Auburn can if that looks somewhat closer, if the coaching can close the gap a tad,
right,
then that would be great. And then now you go recruit. But that's where Auburn's fallen short the last couple of years. But it's just been, man, like Alabama's been Alabama, but there's times where even against Georgia it looks even worse. I don't know if that's because Alabama throws the ball more, and so there's times where when they score, it looks like they're just, Georgia's just pounding you into oblivion, so it looks worse. But man, some of the Georgia games over the past, 18, 19, 20, certainly last 3 years, and you can go back, but they're just, golly, they're beatdowns, and Auburn just doesn't play. They give up big plays, and it's been not great. It's what sucks is too. Even go back to 2010 when Auburn's clearly the better team. And Auburn still gives up 30 in that game. Go back to 2013 when Auburn has a big lead. They blow the lead, that game shouldn't come down to that. So it's kind of a bummer even for Auburn. They won those games, but they should have won a couple of those games by 2 touchdowns themselves or 3 touchdowns, and they've let Georgia hang around. 17 is the only game where that was a blowout. So Georgia's absolutely owned this series, man.
Yeah,
I was looking last year. Bo Nix threw it 40 times. Completed 21 passes last year, 21 for 40. Now, given Auburn was down 24-3 at halftime, and played them equally 3-3 in the back half. But that's and Tank had 8 carries for 31 yards. So Tank only ran the ball eight times last year, and both threw.
He was still in that. Yeah, Tank was still in that not quite the number one guy mode at that point. Like they were still trying to, I think, feel him out. He had some receiving yards, but.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, he's got to be primed. I mean, he's had a couple of bad weeks. I think today, I think he'll have the better game than Jarquez. I think Tank's going to be pumped for this game. I think he's going to be dialed in. I think he has the better game than Jarquez, where Jarquez has kind of had the spotlight for the last few weeks. I think Tank will have a halfway decent game. Like I would be surprised if it happens again where Tank goes out, has no room to run, and Jarquez goes out again and has 8 carries for 70 yards. Like that against Georgia, that would surprise me. I think it's going to take somebody like Tank, and I think he's going to be pretty jacked up for the game.
Well, Justin, let me ask you, man. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago when you had on the corner message board, you had something about Tank maybe not being 100% and that he may not play. Well, maybe it was against Georgia State.
Yep.
So do you think he's still maybe not 100%? I mean, 80% Tank's still really, really good, and Brian Harsin at 80% is saying Tank's fine. But is he 100?
I don't know that anybody's 100, but I think he's fine. I really there's nothing I see from him. Tank's biggest things are his burst. I still see some of that. I mean, I still see some of the bounces outside against LSU, and to me, there's still a little bit of a burst with him.
Because the past 2 weeks, Georgia State and LSU, that's not the Tank we've seen.
Yeah, and that's what Cole, it's just, I can't put my finger on it past. I feel like I see impatience with him.
Yeah.
I feel like I see just pressing. I feel like he's just hitting the hole so fast. Now, that's great when there's a little bit of a hole there because he hits it like a bullet. But when it's not, he just slams boom. And then there's times where they're taught to, feel it, and then bounce. There's sometimes where I think he's bounced it early. And I think Jarquez, maybe being a freshman, his demeanor seems a little bit more calmer at the moment. And I just wonder if Tank's pressing. I just think just take I'm in half a second, a millisecond, just bring it back a notch and let something develop and take the 2. Be Trey Mason. take 3 yards in front of you, go low. Trey Mason was the king of find a little spot, go low. I mean, heck, I could hit the line and dive forward and get 3 yards. Take that, especially against Georgia. Don't think you need to be a home run hitter. So I think Tank just needs to let it come to him and just wonder if, especially against Georgia State when it wasn't happening, if he started to, became a mental game with him, like frustration. Jarquez is taking some of his carries. Maybe that's playing with him a little bit. Like, I want those 8 carries. I need him to get in the rhythm. I mean, I almost wonder if it's a mental thing with him a little bit. What do you think, Cole?
Yeah, it could be. It's kind of weird. I thought he played pretty well against Penn State, who I think has a good defense. We'll find out more about them this week because Iowa's the real deal, I think, too. So, I'm with you though. I think he's pretty healthy and he still has the burst. If he does have anything going on, if he's banged up or whatever, I don't think it's really hindering him that much.
You don't think that's the problem?
No, I really don't. I think it's mental, like Justin's saying. I think he's got, I think he's just wanting to hit it 100 miles per hour, and sometimes, especially like I said, weirdly enough, in the Georgia State game, Auburn's front was not getting any movement on Georgia State's front, but they were against Penn State at times, and he had some success. So,
yeah, that's wild.
It's weird. It is weird, but same kind of thing with LSU. They weren't really hitting anything with the inside zone plays and the, trying to get movement on them until the fourth quarter. They did, but that Tank wasn't really in the fourth quarter. It was more Hunter. So it's just a mental thing, I think, and people on the boards probably disagree with me. I think we've had a few disagreements this week. That's totally fine.
Get used to it.
Oh yeah, it's whatever. But yeah, I think he bounces back too. I really think this is the week he bounces back, and I wrote that in the 5 questions. And he's got some more motivation, and he had his breakout game against Georgia last year. In my opinion, did a lot of good things there. So this is the week, man.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Justin, you said he had some catches. Like he had 7 receptions for 68 yards last year. Almost 10 yards a pop there.
Yeah, that's going to be another part of the game Saturday is can they do more of that? Obviously, Shivers isn't going to surprise anybody anymore. Although in that game, I watched the Auburn LSU game again. He ran that. Shivers was in on 3rd down and ran that swing route a ton of times.
Yeah.
I just kind of when the game happened, I just remembered the times he caught it. It was like, oh, good play. He ran it a bunch that they actually covered it. Like that was a staple on 3rd downs. But it's smart, man. Make the linebacker have to not get his eyes crossed. Make the right step and go cover that guy in the back. Make him do it a lot because if I can hit that back 2 or 3 times out of 10, you're gonna. It's 101 open field. So they ran it a bunch.
That's a huge difference though in the philosophies, right? Because you remember in the offense last year, they put in or the years before that, they put in Malik Miller or a blocking back and just have him in protection. Well, now you have another route you have to attend to. And as soon as they start jumping that route, that's going to open something else over the middle. So
you want to know why? Because they're not Gus Malzahn. It's like 3rd and 3. Let's go deep. Let's put in a blocker because we need 8 seconds because we're going deep.
I wasn't going to go that far. I was just going to say the past Auburn offense. You said it,
it was that crap. It's that crap where you're going deep and you look at it and you're like, what were you doing? You sent a guy on a post. You sent a guy deep. Well, that's great. They're covered. So now what's he supposed to do?
Right.
That stuff's done with.
Not for UCF.
I love T. Will.
Yeah.
T. Will, I just have to be real careful because I love T. Will. By the way, he called me a week ago and was like, "What is going on up there?" He said it was after the Will Cornelius stuff. He goes, "Man, what is happening?" I was like, "Well, it's Auburn. What do you mean? What's going on up here? Like, what do you expect?" All right, let's flip sides of the ball. I think all the attention's gone to Georgia's defense, rightly so. I think Auburn's defense. I think Bo is going to have a great game, but maybe more so, Auburn's defense has to keep Auburn in the game. They cannot afford busted assignments early in the game, first half, really at all. but they cannot afford a slow start. They had a slow start against Georgia State. They had a slow start, certainly a bad first quarter against LSU. That can't happen. You get down 14-0 on Georgia, and if you feel pressed to try to make something happen against that Georgia defense, it's not going to happen. So, I mean, the pressure on Auburn's defense to play sound and to not make mistakes and to keep that thing in check as long as possible is huge. I feel like the game is 2 games in one. It's like get to about late third, fourth, and then play that game in terms of how you manage risks and things like that. But what do you think, Jeffrey, about the defense? Is Auburn's, if they can clean things up, I mean, they're a good unit. What they did the last 3 quarters against LSU was really good. They pressured, they tackled, they did their job. It's different this week. You have a team that can run the ball. LSU couldn't. So now, how do you play Tony Fair and Marcus Harris and also get the pressure when how do you play Leota and Height and Hall but also have to stop the run because you're going to have to play Harris and Fair. So that, to me, the balance is how do you stop the run but also continue to get pressure on Stetson Bennett?
Ooh, probably going to have to find a blitz or two, but I think the absolute number one priority is stopping the run. You've got Zamir White, you've got James Cook, you've got even Kenny McIntosh, if y'all remember him from recruiting. Kendall Milton.
Yeah, they got
they've got 4 horses, man. They're like Alabama. They're always going to have a stable ready to go. But I think Auburn's defense can absolutely, maybe that's why I'm looking at the line going, I think it should be more. But Auburn's defense, Georgia's offense, apart from the running game, they haven't been lighting people up. If you go back to that opening game against Clemson, I think they scored 1 touchdown against Clemson, who we've now kind of figured out is kind of a fraud. So I'm Georgia in the past has had this, I'm thinking of Aaron Murray and dude for the Rams, Stafford, and these guys that can sling it. In this case, JT Daniels is he out? Right?
He's out. He's out.
So now you've got the water boy in, who's you can't let who
had a good game last year. He had
he's pretty solid overall, actually.
But I see the difference you're making. Between Bennett and them, and those guys. But you're right. It doesn't matter. He has to beat you. If he beats you, fine.
Right. Tip your cap. Say best of luck. Catch you next year, bro. Yes. Yeah. I'm not letting them run the football. I'm not letting them dominate. If they're going to beat me, they're going to do it through the air.
Yeah. And somebody brought up, I'd have to double check this, but he hasn't played. Look, Stetson Bennett, you go back, obviously there's COVID last year. You go back to 19 where he wasn't as much of a factor. The hardest environment he's played in is Alabama last year when it was 40%, 25% capacity, whatever it was. Yeah. Now, I think Stetson Bennett's like a gamer kind of guy. I'm not saying he's going to walk in and suck, but I'm also saying this is going to be a different atmosphere than he's played in. And it's Auburn's defense. It's their job to make sure he feels that, because they need to bring pressure on him early and make him sort of feel the weight of this atmosphere in the game, because he hasn't been in that. Georgia hasn't been in it since the last time they came to Auburn, but quarterback specifically, he hasn't. He's been at home. He's played some home games. I mean, Georgia's had a neutral site, some home games, and a home game in Nashville. That's Georgia's schedule this year. Yep. So that defense has got to bring the pressure early. And maybe they can force an early mistake. I don't know. Yeah. But that has to be a factor.
I think that's what you're pushing for. If you're Derek Mason, is you're going to have to create some turnovers, and in doing so, you're going to have to make him make the mistakes, make him force the turnovers through Bennett. But I thought Arkansas was going to give them a better game than they did, and Georgia ended up blowing them out, shutting them out 37-0.
Yeah.
So
that's the main thing. That's the main thing. Auburn has to look like they belong, especially with so many recruits in attendance. Arkansas didn't look like they belong. So to me, that's number one.
I think Arkansas and Auburn are, just from what I've seen, Cole, what do you think about?
No, yeah. I think they're similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very similar. And then, I think I think Auburn's as far as personnel goes in this game, the two big games Auburn's played so far, LSU and Penn State, they're big, passing threats. Really, this is the first time Auburn's seen a team that's going to try to pound them a little bit. But I think the personnel matches maybe even a little better for Auburn because you have guys like Tony Fair and Marquise Burks who you didn't get to see last week because the game, it wasn't their kind of game. I mean, there was no reason to put them out there. So they ought to be fresh coming into this one. They're going to be in the middle. You could go into, like a five-front defense with Derek Hall as the outside linebacker. You have options, is what I'm saying, in personnel for what we're just going to try to do. And if you're Derek Mason, you really want Stetson Bennett to beat you. That's what you plan for. You don't want their stable running backs and their offensive line, who's really good, beat you. You stack the box and see if Stetson Bennett can throw it on you consistently. That's what you do, and you got corners that can play man coverage. That's, to me, this game matches up better.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think Mason's got to continue to mix the scheme. I thought he mixed schemes really well. Those last 3 quarters, he was awesome. I mean, zone man, they did a great job. But you bring up a good point with Burks and Fair maybe being a little bit fresher. That's a fair point. And even Derek Hall, because look, here we are hours before game. Owen Papo's likely not playing unless something happens out of the ordinary. I don't expect Owen Papo to play. Yeah. But that means that Zacoby McClain and Chandler Wooten are going to play a bunch. But what Cole's saying, Auburn's going to need a third linebacker. Now, I think Cam Riley is going to be in the mix. But like you said, maybe you have some fronts where Derek Hall's that guy too. Maybe you play Burks and Fair and Harris and Leota or something, and then Hall stand him up. I mean, so Hall could be a versatile guy to, where you don't have to rely as much on Cam Riley. Maybe you can still play him 20 or 25 snaps, but maybe Hall plays a little bit more stand up, things like that. I hate that Papa. I mean, you didn't necessarily need him against LSU. You dang sure need him against Georgia. He would have been fired up for this game too.
Is it a shoulder with him?
I don't know if it's a shoulder. I haven't gotten confirmation. I was thinking ankle. I think it's ankle.
It looked to me like on the sideline of that first game he was out that he had some kind of something on his foot.
Yeah, it's an ankle. It's something ankle, and I think that's why Harsin keeps saying like he's going through stuff, but I hope he plays because it's like I think he looks like there's times where I think he can look okay. Like he's walking around, he's jogging through stuff, but he's not where he needs to be like the middle linebacker and the kind of stuff that you're going to do. That you need him to be 100%. But yeah, they're going to have to load the box and make Stetson Bennett, which they I think back to that 2019 game when Auburn's defense was fantastic that year, and I think they forced 8 3-and-outs against Georgia in that game. The other 3 drives they gave up touchdowns. It was the weirdest game where Auburn's defense basically dominated, except for 3 drives where they gave up touchdowns. And a couple of those were big over-the-top play. I know Ridley early in that game, they went over the top to Ridley for a touchdown. And you're thinking, man, you guys are doing a pretty good job. You're doing a good job against the run. And then you give up an over-the-top play action. And I feel like Georgia's so good at that.
I think that was Blaylock that year, which he is hurt right now for them. He won't be available.
Oh, Mookie's boy.
Yeah.
Well, Kyrus Jackson scares me. He's so fast, and he's hurt Auburn for the last 2 years. Even going back to that 19 game, he made catches there. He made plays last year. And of course, he had that quote that got out there about we'd like to come into the opponent's stadium and turn it into a home game and turn out the lights.
I love
that. And so the players saw that. By the way, how about did y'all see when I texted you where Derek Hall retweeted me thinking I was being serious? I was like, well, I was being sarcastic, but I guess I did. I don't know. I'll take credit if he gets pissed about it.
Yeah, man. Plays better. He plays like his hair's on fire when he do that every week.
I responded to him because I was joking because the media is like Georgia, and I retweeted somebody. I said, "Boy, Auburn's just lucky to grace the same field as Georgia. I mean, it's just they're fortunate, really." And
Justin, you're just really good at sarcasm because
it doesn't come across on Twitter. Derek Hall retweeted it and said, "Good to know, thanks." It's like, well, Yeah, man. I was just I replied back. I was like, hey, man. Like I was being sarcastic, man. I know you guys are good. Like, but hey,
Yeah.
if it sets them on fire, if it sets some hair on fire, then
Yeah.
we'll see. Is there a number that Georgia can't get past? I mean, barring turnovers and things that we can't predict, like if Auburn gets 3 turnovers, well, okay, that changes things. But I mean, barring a pretty standard game, what's the most Georgia can get to with Auburn still having a chance to win this game? Assuming Auburn's not going to have pick sixes and things like that. Like you can't predict that. If they don't have a pick six and they don't have a punt return for a touchdown, how many points can they manufacture in this game? You got Anders Carlson. Maybe you can hit some 45-yarders. But how many can you manufacture? 16?
I think 17 wins it for Georgia.
I'll go 21-24 wins it for Georgia. Take it just a field goal more.
Yeah.
Speaking of turnovers, though, man, I think Auburn's due for – they've had a few interceptions, but they've caused, 4, 5, 6 fumbles, something like that.
More than that, I think I read. I mean, a bunch of fumbles.
You haven't gotten on one yet.
Not one.
They are due for that. Marquise Burks has caused 3, I think.
Yeah, I think they've – I could pull it up actually real quick because I think it's like an insane number.
And it's not like the ball's just sitting there and nobody's, getting on it. It's like the ball just bounces. I think it was at Penn State. Penn State, they had what would have been a crucial fumble. Obviously, it was crucial. It was a close game. And it just bounced right into the hands of the, I think it was a Penn State lineman at the time.
Yeah.
But it's just, that's what some of the bounces of the ball you got to have.
Yep, they're due for one, right? I mean, maybe Jordan Hare plays factor to that with the crowd that's going to be there.
But Hoke, you talking about no turnovers? No, what I'm saying, I don't think Auburn can score more than 17 points. Auburn's offense can score more than 17 points tonight. I think it'll. I think if Auburn's offense does score 17 points, you got yourself a ball game, unless it's just a blowout and Georgia's,
Yeah. Well, the question is, I mean, can they sustain the drives? I mean, if you're talking about the defense being able to handle them, then they're going to have to be off the field a little bit. Auburn's got to sustain some drives, and they've done that, when it matters most in the last 3 games. So maybe they continue that. I'll say this, too, about Georgia. I looked at them a good bit. Their defensive line is nasty. They have guys rotating. I mean, they rotate about 12 or 15 guys, really. And they're all good. They're all good. The 3 best are Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and Carter. And they're as good as anybody in the country, all 3 of them. But to me, they're not just vicious in the pass rush. And I mean, they're great against the run, but they're not amazing at pass rush. So I think that Bo Nix might have a chance to make some plays where people are not really giving him a chance.
Yeah, the only thing, by the way, it's 5. I don't know where I read the number more, but it's 5 forced fumbles, and they've only got 1, which is
they have 1.
They recovered 1 against Alabama State, it looks like, and they forced a fumble in. Let's see, fumbles. I don't know. It looked like they had, but Burks has 2. I wonder about Georgia though, and we're talking about Bo Nix and can he scramble, and we'll end on this because I got to roll. I wonder if Georgia though, I mean, with the athletes they have, they don't have to blitz if they don't want to. I mean, I think they could play a pretty base. They could tell their linemen, look, that guy's you're not letting him get out. He could force Bo Nix into some problems where Bo Nix, there's nothing there, and he goes to scramble, and they got guys waiting on him. I don't know. We'll see if Georgia can kind of do a spying game, and it'll be on everybody else. Maybe Auburn's tight ends can be a factor again. Obviously, Shanker's been good.
Yes.
Fromm's been good. Deal's been a good blocker. Maybe they can create some runs with those guys. If Auburn maybe there's some times where you go 2 tight end and you just try to pound 3 yards if that's what you got to do. Maybe they can help that line because that offensive line, I mean, they're better than last year. Yeah. Marginally, probably. I mean, and they got stomped by Georgia last year. So I don't know how you're going to come out and all of a sudden Auburn's going to run for I mean, I think it'll be
200.
lucky. If you take Bo Nix out of the equation, and I don't know. I mean, 3 yards of carry is probably the max.
Yeah, can Auburn rush as a team minus Bo Nix? Can they rush for over 100 yards?
Well,
not without a 40-yarder.
Let me say this too about the scheme, and if you're going to try to run on them. One of the biggest gripes about the Penn State, defensive scheme, people got into that a lot, on our boards and in the media and whatever, was that they gave Penn State a little bit too much credit. They gave Dotson too much credit, and they played deep the whole game and allowed so many underneath passes to tight ends and things. Well, I think even though it's going to be difficult, don't give Georgia too much credit. Run the football. Try to establish what you do, right?
Yeah. You have to. And Harsin said that. And Harsin said that on Monday. He goes, "They're good. I hear y'all." He goes, "But we still got a scheme. We still got a game plan, and we still have to do the things we do." And he said it's a great opportunity or a great challenge for us to do basically what we do. He's like, "Hey, look, this is a good opportunity for us to stay true to who we are and attempt to run the football." But he's kind of like you. He's like, "Guys, like we still have to play the game. Like I got a scheme, and we got to figure something out."
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's end on this. I think we kind of gave predictions. So I think we kind of know where everybody stands. Any last word on the game? Make sure at auburnlive.com, recruiting stuff. I want to do a recruiting, maybe we do like an emergency recruiting podcast after the weekend, maybe Monday or something. We have y'all back on to revisit everything that happens. Maybe we put that out on Tuesday, and because it's a massive basketball, football. I think it's the biggest football weekend in a long time, mainly because this is staff's first chance to say, we are a big time program. Here's our atmosphere. Here's who we are. Like it's a big deal for that staff.
Yeah. 2019 Iron Bowl. It's at least been 2 years since Auburn's had this kind of visit list. But yeah. Hey, real quick on recruiting for everybody Saturday morning. We're keeping an eye on Drew Bobo, the Auburn high offensive lineman, going to make a decision in the next 48, 72 hours max. Auburn's looking really good there. Like you said, you got 4 official visitors in football, got 5 in basketball, 3 of which are 2023 guys. So a lot of news coming out of this weekend. Y'all stay tuned to the corner. We're going to be updating me and Cole before the game on the corner of who's showing up, who we're confirming is on campus. And then we will have updates soon after the game, Sunday and Monday. So we'll be rolling them out, man, probably all week. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out.
Yes, sir.
Yep. All right. So be tuned, auburnlive.com throughout the weekend, and then we'll be back to kind of take you through all that stuff, maybe a recruiting only podcast on Monday. And so watch out for that on Tuesday. Thanks to Cole, Jeffrey. Everybody have an awesome day. Look, it's Auburn, Georgia. Have fun with it. At least you're not a Georgia fan. No matter what happens, it's always a positive. And roll with it. Have a good weekend, and we'll see y'all soon. Thanks. Bye.